Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the important stuff so you don't have to. Today, we're plunging into something pretty amazing, dolphin communication.
Yeah, and specifically how artificial intelligence is starting to help us maybe figure out what they're actually saying.
Sounds like science fiction almost.
Yeah.
Our main source here is an announcement from Google's The Keyword blog about something called DolphinGemma.
Right.
So, our mission today is to unpack how this AI, building on, well, decades of research, is trying to decode dolphin sounds.
And maybe, just maybe, lead to actually communicating with them. It's a big goal.
A huge goal. But yeah, you mentioned decades of research. Before we get to the AI, we need to talk about that foundation, right?
Absolutely. You really can't understand the AI part without appreciating the groundwork laid by the Wild Dolphin Project, the WDP. They started way back in 1985.
Now, 1985, that's
Yeah.
a long time dedication.
It is. And they've been studying this one community of wild Atlantic spotted dolphins in the Bahamas all this time.
Just one community? Why focus so narrowly?
Well, their whole approach is crucial. They call it in their world on their terms,
I mean,
meaning completely non-invasive. They just observe, record, they don't interfere. It's all about understanding them naturally.
okay, so no experiments, just watching and listening.
Exactly. And because of that, they have this incredible data set. Decades of underwater video and audio perfectly synced.
It's okay.
And crucially, they know the individual dolphins, their histories, their relationships, what they were actually doing when they made a sound.
So it's not just random recordings, it's like context. But focusing on just one group, does that limit things? Could other dolphin groups talk differently?
That's a really good question. And yeah, it's possible, even likely, there are dialects, different signals in different places.
That's accents.
Sort of, yeah. But studying this one group so intensely gives us this incredibly deep baseline. We understand their communication really well, which helps us know what to look for elsewhere.
Makes sense. And being underwater lets them see exactly who's talking and what's happening?
Precisely. You can directly link the sound to the behavior. You can't really do that reliably from a boat on the surface.
Can you give some examples? What sounds have they linked to what behaviors?
Sure, so one classic example is signature whistles. These seem to be unique to each dolphin, kind of like names.
Names. Really?
It looks that way. They're really important for, say, mothers and calves finding each other after they get separated. It suggests, complex social bonds.
Okay, wow. What else?
Then there are these sounds called burst pulses. One type they call squawks. You hear those a lot during fights or aggressive moments.
After fights, okay.
And another type, clicks that form a buzz. They often hear those during courtship or maybe when the dolphins are chasing after prey, like sharks even.
Buzzes for chasing sharks.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like we're getting little windows into their motivations, their social lives.
Kind of, yeah. And knowing the individuals is just so critical here.
Why specifically?
Because, well, context is everything, right? Is that whistle a mom calling a calf? Or the calf, now older, identifying itself? Is that squawk a real threat or just play?
Okay. Different meanings depending on who and when.
Exactly. So WDP's long-term focus lets them start to piece that together. The goal is figuring out the structure, the grammar, maybe, in these natural sound sequences.
Okay, so almost 40 years of this amazing groundwork. Now, enter the AI, DolphinGemma. What is it exactly?
So DolphinGemma is what's called a large language model, LLM, developed by Google. Think like the AI that understands human language, but this one's designed for dolphin sounds.
Okay.
It uses some clever Google audio tech. One bit is called the sound stream tokenizer. It basically chops up the complex dolphin sounds into smaller bits the AI can work with.
Like words almost.
Sort of, yeah, manageable units. And then these units go into a model that's built to handle really long, complex sequences of sounds, not just isolated noises.
So it's looking at the whole conversation, not just single clicks or whistles.
That's the idea, looking for the bigger patterns. And what's really neat is the size. It's about 400 million parameters.
Which sounds big, but
It's actually quite optimized, lightweight enough that it can run on the Pixel phones the researchers use right there in the water.
no way. Not
Yeah.
some giant supercomputer.
Nope, right on a phone, which is huge for field research. And it's built on Google's Gemma models, which are related to their big Gemini AI. So it's got a solid pedigree.
Okay, impressive tech. How do they teach a dolphin?
They trained it extensively on that huge WDP database. We talked about all those real-world dolphin sounds.
All those decades of recordings.
Exactly. So it works like this. Audio goes in, audio comes out. It processes sequences of dolphin sounds, finds patterns, structure.
And it can even predict what sound might come next.
Yeah, just like human language models predict the next word. It's learning the statistical likelihood of sounds following other sounds.
So it's learning the rules of dolphin communication. Kinda.
Yeah.
Without us even telling it the rules.
That's a great way to put it. It's finding patterns, structure, maybe even a kind of grammar that we humans might just miss by listening.
That's potentially revolutionary for this field.
It really could be. And they're already starting to use it.
So how is WDP using DolphinGemma right now, like this season?
Yeah, they're starting to deploy it now. The immediate win is its ability to quickly find recurring patterns.
Things humans would take ages to find.
Exactly. Clusters of sounds that often go together, reliable sequences, stuff that used to mean researchers manually listening to, countless hours of tape.
So the AI is like a super-powered assistant, highlighting interesting bits in the data.
Pretty much. It spots statistically significant features way faster than we ever could.
And what about the future you mentioned? Synthetic sounds.
Right, this is looking further ahead, but it's exciting. They're thinking about maybe using AI-generated synthetic sounds.
Sounds the dolphins don't normally make.
Yeah, and trying to associate those sounds with things the dolphins interact with, like sargassum seaweed or seagrass, or even those scarves they sometimes play with.
It's like teach them words for those things.
Potentially, yeah. If they can build that association, maybe create a simple shared vocabulary, it's a step towards interactive communication.
Mind blown. Okay, so that idea of interaction leads us to another project, right? Chat.
Correct. So DolphinGemma is more about understanding their natural communication. Chat, which is cetacean hearing augmentation telemetry.
Itchy name.
Ha! Yeah. It's a collaboration with Georgia Tech, and it's focused specifically on exploring that two-way interaction potential.
But differently from the synthetic sound idea with DolphinGemma.
Sort of parallel. The key thing with chat, initially at least, isn't decoding their complex natural language. It's about establishing a simpler, shared set of sounds we create.
Starting from scratch, building a basic bridge.
Exactly. The idea is use the chat system to generate novel synthetic whistles, sounds deliberately different from natural dolphin calls. Then researchers associate these whistles with specific things the dolphins like, toys or objects. They demonstrate it, make the sound, offer the object.
Hoping the dolphins will mimic the sound to ask for the object.
That's the hope. These dolphins are naturally curious and great mimics. The long-term goal is maybe adding natural sounds we do understand into chat later on.
It sounds simple, but doing that underwater in real time must be tricky.
Oh, extremely. There are huge hurdles. First, the system has to even hear the mimic over all the ocean noise.
Right.
Second, it has to identify which synthetic whistle it heard instantly. Third, it tells the researcher using bone-conducting headphones so they can hear underwater.
So the researcher knows immediately what the dolphin asked for.
Yes. And fourth, that lets the researcher react super quickly, offer the right object, and reinforce that connection. You make this sound, you get this thing. That speed is critical.
Wow. A lot has to happen very fast. And the Pixel phones are involved here too.
Yes, absolutely central. They started using a Pixel 6 for the real-time sound analysis, listening through the underwater microphones, the hydrophones.
Impressive for a phone.
Totally. But the next generation, planned around a Pixel 9 for summer 2025, is even more integrated. The phone itself will have the speaker and microphone functions built into the chat hardware.
So the phone is the chat interface, almost.
In a way, yeah. And crucially, these new phones are powerful enough to run the deep learning models, maybe bits of DolphinGemma even.
And other methods too.
Yeah, and also more traditional sound matching algorithms, all at the same time, right there on the device.
That seems like a huge advantage over custom-built stuff.
Massive. It means less reliance on expensive bespoke hardware that's hard to fix in the field. It's easier to maintain, uses less power, always a big deal out on the ocean, and it's just smaller and cheaper. Huge practical benefits.
It's smart science, using accessible tech. You mentioned DolphinGemma could help chat how.
Yes. Well, because DolphinGemma is learning patterns and prediction, it might help chat recognize a dolphin's attempt at a mimic much earlier.
Even if it's not a perfect copy.
Exactly. If it can spot a likely mimic attempt starting, it can flag it for the researcher faster. That quicker feedback loop makes the whole interaction smoother and reinforces the learning for the dolphin.
So the AI understanding their natural patterns helps us build this artificial communication bridge faster. That's really cool.
It's a neat synergy, yeah.
Now, Google plans to share DolphinGemma. Make it open source.
That's the plan, yes. They intend to release it as an open model this summer, which is pretty significant for the research community.
Why significant?
Well, while it's trained specifically on these Atlantic spotted dolphins from the WDP data.
Right, with their potential dialect?
Exactly. The underlying AI architecture, how it represents sound, how it analyzes sequences that could be really useful for researchers studying other whales and dolphins too, like bottlenose or spinner dolphins.
Even though their sounds might be quite different.
Yeah, the researchers expect it would need fine-tuning. You'd need to train it more on the specific sounds of, say, spinner dolphins, but the core model provides a powerful starting point.
So other teams won't have to start from zero.
Precisely. By making it open, Google is hoping to give researchers everywhere better tools to analyze their acoustic data, find patterns faster, and just generally speed up our collective understanding of all these intelligent marine species.
That fosters collaboration, democratizes the tools a bit.
That seems to be the goal. It acknowledges this is a huge, complex puzzle, and the more people and data we can bring in, the faster we'll likely solve it.
Looking at the whole picture, the decades of WEP observation, Georgia Tech's chat system, Google's AI, it really feels like we're on the cusp of something new here.
I think so too. For so long, it's just been listening, trying to guess. Now we're starting to see the structure, the patterns inside the sounds. It's a shift from just hearing to hopefully beginning to understand.
So wrapping up, what's the main thing that strikes you about all this?
For me, it's really that convergence. You've got this incredibly patient, long-term fieldwork boots on the ground, or fins in the water, I guess.
Yeah.
Combined with the absolute cutting edge of AI technology. It shows how tech can just amplify our ability to understand the natural world. And it pushes us to think about, well, what is intelligence? What is communication? If we can bridge this gap, what does that say about us and them?
That's definitely something to ponder. Imagine truly understanding another intelligent species. What could we learn, not just about them, but about communication itself, about our own place in the world? Makes you wonder what other conversations are happening out there.
Below the waves, yeah.
If you're curious and want to learn more about the fieldwork, check out the Wild Dolphin Project, wilddolphinproject.org. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.